Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where everybody is in the world today. How are you doing this morning, Laura?
Fabulous. Thank you.
Fantastic.
My
So,
my
yeah.
voice is a bit hoarse um, this summer for some reason, but I've spent a lot of time in the sun, uh, full on sunblock, of course, but and I've been doing a lot of creative work. So I think, like when I wake up into the morning, which it's morning here for me, my voice is always just in the summer. You should get this was when I was a kid, and it's coming back. So, but I'm in creative mode, so I think there's a lot going on. I've been doing a lot of talking out in the world and
Mm,
doing things. So, but anyways, I'm excited. I always am for our podcast.
of course, indeed. And I'm quite excited for our topic today. It kind of just came to me, specifically because Laura and myself decided last week that aside from all the creative brainstorming work that we're going to be doing, that we actually knuckle down and do some practical work around what are we going to be doing with all these phenomenal ideas, like what steps need to be taken. And I was lying in bed last night and thinking about today's podcast, and it came to me like a flash in the heavens kind of a thing. I literally just heard this one Bible verse that says, faith without works is dead.
Mm.
And the explanation was always, it's all well and good to have your faith and believe that God is going to help you, etc. But you have to do something. Yes, God's going to do the heavy lifting, absolutely, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it. But you still have phenomenal power. You have a body, you have a mind, you have all these incredible gifts and talents. You have to do some of the work. And that just kind of really struck me because I was thinking, so many times people say, oh, well, I really want to manifest wealth for myself. And my first question is, okay, great. What are you doing to bring that in? Well, no, I'm just saying to the universe that I want that. Okay. And are you seeing the opportunities coming through? Yes, yes, I am. Okay. So what are you doing to accept those opportunities in? What do you mean? I'm like, well, have you started a company, an LLC? Have you looked at a business bank account? Have you looked at a business plan on how you're going to monetize these opportunities? Have you approached mentors for their guidance? Have you done all the things that you need to be doing in order to show the universe that you are preparing for these hopefully millions upon millions of dollars that are supposed to be coming into your bank account? And the answer invariably is no. And then 3 months down the line, it's like, well, this manifestation stuff doesn't really work. No, you just didn't do it right, essentially.
And remembering that manifestation. So when we talked about this right before we went live, I wrote practice equals manifestation. There is a formula to the universe, to us, to whatever, like I love using the word like engineering, designing a plan, and then we get an outcome, we get results. And I think this is most of us, most humans are not born and bred and even trained to think with that mindset, right? That practice equals manifestation. And when we talk about manifestation in the modern world, some people, their minds jet off and think it's, some fluff talk. And oh, if you're into spirituality or whatever their mindset goes to. But no, manifestation is result. And it's how we
Hmm.
think about creating any type of experience that we want. If we want to be living a wealth of self experience, you have to engineer it into existence. You have to create it. And right, even if we don't want to look at something maybe really magnified, like, what was it like to build the pyramids in Egypt, right? But that was thought, engineering, practice, some practicality, some very big dream, and then the work applied to create it. Now, there may or may not have been universal powers at work to help with that on some level. However, there was real man force applied to creating those types of structures. So look at your structure of financial wealth in the same way, whether it is working diligently, applying creativity, dreaming and goaling big, starting a small job, to start a bank account, to work with a mentor, work with an investor. You have to start somewhere and then it grows. But if you do not have the correct mindset, the alignment will be off. And if you just
Mm,
think it without application, it'll just stay in the realm of thought, not actual
correct.
manifestation.
Yeah. So funny you should say that because well, actually, something else that you said before we even started today's show, which sparked another memory for me, was you mentioned, it applies to everything. It doesn't just apply to business and wealth and all the rest of it. It applies to your romantic life, your social life, your familial life. It applies to everything, right? If you're wanting to get stronger physically and you manifest that you're going to be better, etc., in your general wealth, health, and well-being, well, you have to start taking the right kinds of supplements and eating the correct kind of food, right? There is action that needs to come alongside that. And I'll never forget that one of my mentors, I approached her. This was many, 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 many years ago. And at the time, I was feeling a little bit lonely. I think it was at a stage in my life where a lot of my friends were getting married. Um, kind of glad I didn't go down that road at that particular point in time, looking back. But anyway, I was feeling a little bit lonely, and I remember saying to my mentor that I really wanted to manifest a partner into my life. And she says to me, "Well, that's all well and good, but let's look at your surroundings. You're saying you're wanting to manifest a partner, but does your lifestyle show that?" She says, let's look at your driveway, because at the time I was renting a room from a family. She goes, let's look at your driveway. There's no room in that driveway for another car
Hmm.
because everybody else has their vehicle, you've got yours, and there's no more space. She's like, you're sleeping on a single bed instead of in a king size bed. There's no space for another person. She's like, you're renting a room, you're not in an apartment with your own space. You're literally showing the universe physically that there is no space for somebody else. And yet you're saying, I want somebody else in my life. She goes, so I'd like you to start taking some steps to rectify that. And let's see what starts to happen. And interestingly enough, it sparked sort of this 3 or 4 year journey for me, where instead of just like, upping and moving out, I started to realize there was a lot of other emotional and mental work that I needed to do in order to create that space, not just physically, but in myself for another person to come in. Um, and again, right there, where if we're wanting something to come in, ask ourselves, have we actually made the space to do so, to allow that to come in?
And I love that. Excuse me. I love that example. And then you would get people that would leave that driveway, leave that one room, leave that twin bed, go right into creating space, and then be like, okay, where are you? Right? They would think, okay, now I created the space. Where's the partner? And that was so beautifully said as you kind of rounded the corner with 3 or 4 year journey, personal work, internal work, recalibrating the thoughts emotionally, cleaning space within first, and then manifesting it outward, which I think is, again, we're always going back to the wealth of self. If we do not connect to the freedom, the space, the engineering within, it will only be thought, and then it will not match up. And to remind everyone, again, whatever philosophy we all carry within, we are energetic beings. We
Mm-hmm.
can measure frequency, vibration, from the body, within the body, off the body, right? They have very unique measuring devices that can see auras off the body. Science. I'm going to pull the science in for those of our listening audience that, are new to understanding this beautiful alchemy between, the esoteric world and the thought world into actual world. But we resonate. So if we're thinking, I want a partner, but I'm behaving with a narrowed vision, and then someone suggests to us, think differently, create differently, and then our mind goes to, where's the result? Which, right, we all want instant gratification. That 3 to 4 year statement is so important. It's there to remind us that when we begin to think differently, there is a trail that is filled with processes to get
Mm-hmm.
us to experience what we're thinking about. Find the joy in that rather than creating another thought of hardship or like expectation immediately. The excitement and the journey is the awareness to the result. And that's a very beautiful trip for all of us to take in the process of creation.
For sure. And, further to that, the easiest way, because I do know that I struggle with that, when, oh, I want to manifest this and it doesn't come in immediately. And why do I have to go through challenges in order to get there and all the rest of it? What helps me is to actually, and find out somebody who's not in any way, shape, or form spiritual, anything like that, actually sat me down one day and said, what you don't tend to do, what I never hear you doing, is celebrating your little wins.
Yeah.
And you're having all these little wins because I can see them, but you're not, I never hear you celebrate them. You're always complaining about the next challenge.
Oh,
And
we could do
when
a
I
whole,
heard that,
go ahead.
yeah,
I'm so sorry. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast too on that.
we absolutely could. We absolutely
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, oh gosh, that is kind of huge. And when I started to then actually journal about it, what is going right now? What has shifted? Where was I a month ago, 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, in my mind and my emotions and my body? Where was I? Where am I now? What has shifted? What am I still wanting to shift? And then you're actually able to see the progression. And then it becomes clear as day as to what is actually happening. And when you do those exercises, it has this wonderful knock on effect of actually speeding up the manifestation process. Because now
Absolutely.
you're in a state of gratitude, you're recognizing the growth, which means instead of fighting the challenges, you start to accept them in because you see them for what it is, which is just what you need in order to grow, right? So instead of
Yes.
pushing back and going, oh, this is tough. I don't like this. This is difficult. And I don't want to do this right now. Instead, you're going, okay, there's a lesson here. Let's figure out what the lesson is. And suddenly everything just flows so much faster.
And there's such a wealth of information in what you just shared. We all understand. We have a metaphor. We have a real life experience of being excited and setting a process in motion and then being knocked down for whatever reason and then trying to get back up, being knocked down. All of this movement is in place simply to show you resolve, determination, tenacity, lessons learned. Use the process, the journey, again, the awareness, right? First principle of the J3 = E formula, awareness. When you become aware that you are making strides, celebrate them. It could just be a celebration of acknowledgement. I lost a pound. I left that relationship. We don't have to like really get mired down in all the details. It's just, I did that. I looked at that. Even if it's just clearing out a drawer, right? Reorganizing a closet, washing your car. For some of us, those are very big steps when we're in a state of challenge, sadness, depression, shifts that we did not want or welcome or feel that we created. It really
Mm-hmm.
is that important to recognize those very small details. And as Stefan said, bring in the gratitude, and that gratitude has a vibration attached to it that the universe recognizes. And then we start this beautiful dance, this synergy with ourself through, right, the reflection of outside results. Again, could be very small, and then it builds momentum. And then we will be challenged, we will be tested. Just when we think it's all going right, something will come in, because that is us building, designing, engineering the wealth of self, whatever category we're looking in. And for most of us, our finances, our self-care, our romance, our friendships, all of that, we're all constantly entwined,
Yeah.
entangled, but sometimes in a beautiful entanglement with what we're really creating. And another thing you said too, mentorship. And this is part of why we're building the Wealth of Self community. There's many people that don't have access. So allow us to mentor you right now. 1 year from now, if you listen to every podcast, do you
Mm-hmm.
know the wealth of information, the wealth of inspiration you will have in only 12 months by listening to the Wealth of Self? Right there is a real time example of how to build new knowledge into your mind with examples of application. And to remind everyone again, you and I are constantly going through this in real time. We're showing people
Yep.
what it is to communicate to ourselves, mentoring one another, mentoring this community to build each other, our businesses, our dreams, and this community up. We're always up leveling together.
That's exactly it. Like, and I'm so glad that you brought that up as well, because there can sometimes be this idea that we're not supported,
Mm,
that we don't necessarily have, um, that we need money in order to be supported as well, right? In whatever it is we're doing. But we live in such a phenomenal time period where never before have you had such a massive wealth of information out there in the form of podcasts, in the form of social media, etc. Yes, there's a lot of negative stuff out there as well, but if you really start to welcome in, like Laura's saying, you know, mentorship in the form of these positive podcasts with the wealth of self, this is the kind of information that really can start to change your life, because slowly but surely, as you're listening to it, your mind will start to rewire itself. You will start to accept in that things are better than you are able to accept right here, right now. And as you do that, you start to really notice more positive things. And as you start to notice more positive things, what happens? And we know this, the universe gives
mm,
you more of that, right? So it's this wonderful, um,
yeah.
this wonderful snowball effect. And I keep, and I think actually I had this chat with you, Laura, last week, but that was offline, not on our podcast, where I said I'm starting to notice how fast things are starting to manifest for me. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, also what's happened to me over the last couple of months is every time I have a thought of, oh, things are going really well, I wonder when the other shoe's going to drop, which is how I've
Oh,
always looked at life, right?
yes, yes.
And every time I have that thought, I go, no, actually, cancel, 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 not accepting that into my reality, because why does the other shoe have to drop?
It
Why
doesn't.
can I accept that this is my life and it is beautiful and it's incredible and there's more where that came from? And like I said earlier, the challenges are not negative, they're there to help me grow. Perfect example is, so a little quick story. I'm not a plant person by any stretch of the imagination. I think every herb plant, when people have said to me, "Oh, you know, parsley will grow for you like weeds. You just leave it on the windowsill and off you go." And I've just never had that experience. And I finally am getting a bunch of herbs and I'll start growing beautifully. And the other day I thought, oh, I really should put my herb tray outside. Beautiful day, lovely sunlight and a little bit of drizzle. Maybe it'll actually help my herbs grow more. Forgot about it for the afternoon. Went back outside about 3, 4 p.m. and the wind had come up. And my poor herbs were all like lying flat. They'd been blown over, not broken, but just blown over. And I'm distraught. And I'm thinking, oy vey, what have I done? This just goes to show that I'm the worst plant parent in the universe. Bring my herbs back in, and I try and kind of straighten them. I'm like, oh, I hope they're okay. Water them, and I leave them. And I choose to forget about them for 2 days because you're not supposed to worry about them too much. Come back, and I look at them again, and I'm like, is it me or are their stalks looking a lot thicker and a lot stronger? Left it for a week, and these herbs had blossomed into these beautiful bushes. And I'm like, that wind, because they've been inside the whole time, they haven't been exposed to the elements at all. That wind, that adversity, that challenge, literally forced them to grow stronger. And I looked at this and I was like, this is what the universe does for all of us constantly. Gives us these beautiful challenges so that we can grow into better people, into better human beings, into people who are more ready for all the blessings that are about to come our way.
I love this example because the minute you said, I knew something was going to come out of past the sunshine and drizzle. And I was going to figure out something. They got blown over, right? Because they're delicate. And even if they're in big pots, little pots, I love this. This is such a beautiful example for all of us. We put ourselves out in the sunshine or the rain, and then a storm comes or a gust of wind, and boom, we get knocked down. And this is the beauty of not only the science of empowerment, the wealth of self, everything that we talk about. Welcome the storms. And when you begin to look into them and lean into them as a mechanism to come out of them with new knowledge, new skills, a new strength, now they don't frighten you. They're less of a challenge. And again, when we talk, this is not to say use this when there are things in our life that are really heart-wrenching and tragic, and we've covered podcasts and we will over the years with acknowledging that we're talking about those storms within and some out of our control. How can we be resilient like the herb? How can we care about building up the resilience when something knocks us down? And it's a very unique experience that very first time that you get caught up in the turbulence and the disruption, and you settle within it because you know not only are you going to come out of it, but you are going to come out of it with a superpower, a new mindset, a new wiring of thinking. It's the most amazing feeling in the world. That doesn't mean you stay on that high every moment, and that someone that can really recalibrate negative challenges quite easily will not have a challenge that will bring you to your knees. Because right, sometimes as we start to get the momentum, to get strong, to become educated, to become skillful, we will create something that will make us question it all. Again, lean into that. The question, the process, the experience is just to get you stronger and get you more prepared to accept the greater gifts that are coming.
So something actually just occurred to me now, just kind of came in as you were talking about the challenges preparing you for the greater gifts that are coming in. And something that I so often bring up with my clients as well is that stress in the human mind can come from both what we deem positive and what we deem negative. And my clients will always go, well, what do you mean by that? And I'll say, well, take for example the fact that statistically, people who win the lottery tend to lose all that cash very quickly. Not
Right.
lose, but they blow it and it's
Yeah.
gone, right? And they've got nothing to show for it within a year or two. And psychologists have done studies on this, and then they figured out that actually it's because the human mind cannot, but anything over 10% shift in a positive or negative way causes stress for the human mind. So something that we would all deem to be a wonderful surprise, you win the lottery and you've got $15 million, however much you've won, right?
Mm.
That to us sounds like a phenomenal problem to have. Like, why would you not want that? But it actually does put stress on the mind, because the mind is not ready for the kind of responsibility that comes with that wealth. It doesn't know how to handle it. It knows X amount of money coming in. It does not know an exponential windfall coming in instantaneously. It can't compute that. That creates stress. Now, the same thing in everyday life, when we're trying to manifest better conditions or a better flow in our lives, these challenges that come in are not there to trip us up. They're not there to keep us in the status quo that we've created for ourselves. Rather, they really are there to get us used to a new dynamic, a new paradigm, right? It's shifting us slightly out of our comfort zone so that when that blessing comes in, that's not stressful. We can now handle that. That makes sense to us, right?
Right.
And then the next challenge is just there to prepare you for the next blessing. And it's this beautiful, consistent rung climbing that we're doing till eventually, and you will have heard Laura and myself say this so often, your life should be on a constant upward trajectory. That's what we hope and pray for everyone. That's not to say that there aren't peaks and troughs, but the troughs should always be a little bit higher than the previous peak.
Right.
And the next peak should be a lot higher than the previous trough. So there's this consistent up leveling that's happening. And I think when we start to recognize that, then again it comes back to the fact that these challenges are welcomed with open arms, because they're not there to trip us up. They're there to teach us. They're there to help us to grow. They're there to help us to become stronger, so what's the term that you always use, Laura? And I've gone completely blank on it. Not the contradict, the contrast. The
Oh yeah,
contrast.
trust. Yeah.
That contrast then helps us to recognize and really appreciate the blessings as and when they're coming in. And then those challenges are also blessings, and you see them as such. And then life just becomes this beautiful learning journey, which is all it is. It's just a learning.
Right. And it just made me think of that. I was just talking to my husband on the way home from the shore last night about this graph that a very dear friend of mine who's creating this amazing startup company, and it's just a very simple black and white, and it's a few little like stick people at the bottom ground level, and there's a little bit of a little jagged climb, and then it shows another one and another one, and it's a pretty steep incline, right? Because this is the journey of engineering, a designer, an entrepreneur. We all are these things in life. All of us, as a mother, a father, a partner, a business person, a student, a teacher, a guide, we are engineers in the designing of our life. And it showed someone up on a ridge leaning over and lending a helping hand. And then the two of them went to the next peak. And there's again jagged edges, and then there's soft little pathways. And then finally, this metaphor and this drawing goes all the way through to where they both get up and arrive at the peak, and it is
Mm.
gorgeous. There's this whole beautiful outlook. And as they're doing the 360 and they start to almost get around, there's the next climb. and it shows a whole nother beginning from that base of that next climb and the whole journey again. This has
Mm.
stayed in my mind for weeks, because what it did for my mind, because my mind is prepared to take in knowledge, information very differently than it was when I was not as skilled as, right, in the technique of recalibrating thought and being very aware of my thinking. Now I get excited. It no longer is about achievement at these peaks. It is about the entire journey of that excitement of bring on the next. And again,
Mm.
every peak is a celebration, and you need to take the time and to reflect, to enjoy, to embrace. And the beauty of the human potential is we don't ever have to settle. And if we choose to relax at that peak, that first peak, that is our right to stay there and create a life there. But for some of us, we want to keep that trajectory. And again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, welcome these challenges, get geared up, get suited up, i.e., mentorship, podcast, reading books, taking courses, let go of negative beliefs, outdated patterns, keep building your backpack, your toolkit, and keep looking at that next journey, that next climb. Keep keep rising, because why would we not? We have the ability to be limitless in thought, limitless in our experiences. Let's keep building the wealth of that journey together, because there's nothing like it.
That's exactly it. I mean, I often think to myself that this whole life, everything that we do here is all about growth. It's all about expansion, right? And if we're not constantly growing, if we're not constantly learning, well, then why the heck are we here? You know,
Right.
it's we're here to experience life to its fullest. So I'm always encouraging my friends, my family, my clients, whatever new challenges you want to take on, do so. Do it with everything you've got, because you may as well. It's going to teach you something, right? You're going to
Right.
learn something out of it,
Right.
even if you quote unquote fail, which I don't believe that there is ever such a thing as failure,
Right.
because it's either learn or do not. Like that, the only time you can fail is if you choose to not do something at all. Um,
And
so
remember,
even yeah.
so sorry, I want to put this in for people that attach experiences to the word, right? Fail, fear of failure, fear of success keeps us locked in there. Remember
Hmm.
this acronym: forever empowered and
Mm.
resourceful. No fear. You are empowered and resourceful. You have things at your fingertips, whatever those may be, to pull on and use to help you move in a more positive direction.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I also do want to just reiterate something that we were saying at the outset about the practicality that needs to come into this as well.
Right, right,
Because I have a few friends who they're not looking to manifest a new job or wealth or anything like that, but they are specifically looking to manifest a better romantic life for themselves. Now, I bring this up because something that I can be guilty of, and definitely trying to get away from it, is starting to do the first step, right? Taking that first action, which is looking for mentorship, right? And what a lot of my friends will do is they'll then start to watch TikToks about relationships and how to, accept love into your life. And I go, well, this is great. This is phenomenal. And I watch some of them with them, and oh, this is such great advice. 2 weeks down the line, we're still watching the same topic.
right,
And I'm going, okay, but what have you done about it? You
right.
say you want someone new in your life. Have you gone on any dates? Well, no, nobody wants to go on a date with me. Okay, how are you trying to find these people? Oh, well, I'm going on dating apps and that, and I'm just not connecting with anybody. Okay, have you tried just meeting new people? Well, what do you mean? Have you tried just saying to your friends, like, oh, let's go to a different bar or go to a different restaurant than the same place that we go every single Friday? Have you tried that? No. Don't like new people. Well, how are you going to have a new romantic partner if you don't meet new people, right? It it just works hand in hand with that. Um, and
Well,
it's yeah,
yeah, because that's why, look at the mindset. I don't want to meet new people. I just want the one to appear.
right.
I just want it to happen. Right? There you go back to right to the practice of manifestation. You can't just wish it into being. You have to create the process to be attracting it in.
Mm-hmm. Exactly that. And I think also that a lot of people don't like the idea of um, what's the word I'm looking for? Of having to have those lessons in between. And I actually
Right.
did see one, I think it was a reel on Instagram, where this relationship coach actually put it in perfect dialogue, where he was saying, in business, entrepreneurs, there's this old saying that entrepreneurs hit it big suddenly, right? Suddenly, quote unquote. But nobody sees the 5 or 6 businesses that they had before that didn't work out, where they learned a absolute metric ton of information about what to actually do in business. And those businesses may not have succeeded the way they wanted to, but they were able to take those learnings and put it into the final product. And now they have a business that runs smoothly. He
Right.
says, and it's exactly the same thing with a relationship. We go into relationships thinking that we're going to be perfect at this from the get go. And yet you're growing and you're changing as a person. So obviously your tastes, your wants, your desires are going to be shifting as time progresses, which in turn means that the kind of person you're going to want to be with either has to shift and change with you, or you're going to have to up level to a new relationship. It doesn't mean that your relationship failed. It just means that you learned everything you could from this particular one, and now it's time for the next one.
Right. And I love what you
Yeah.
yes. Um, the in between. This is where the human condition is unevolved, right? We don't like the in between. If we're trying
Mm,
to lose weight, we don't like the in between. If we're having to leave one relationship in the hopes of having something better, we don't like the in between. If we're driving not necessarily a fancy car and living in a fancy place because we're trying to save money to create a business, we don't like the in between. No one really knows how to master that in between, which is what you and I are expressing here today. Between the practice and the manifestation is the work, is the alchemy. It is the beauty of chiseling off the coal so that the diamond shines. However, whatever type of metaphor you want to put in place, make partnership with the in between. Create a love affair
mhm.
with the in between. It is where it all happens. It is the tilling of the soil, the planting of the seed, the blowing over of the herbs. It's all of it. That is the in between. It is the beautiful, empowering place that creates the results that we are desiring. And if we miss the in between, we will stay tethered to the consistency of wanting, desiring, impatience, all of that. We will never have the journey. And if anyone somehow finds a bypass system through the in between, the end result, i.e., back to the story of the lotto winners that actually go broke fast, the gratitude is missing. The
There we
journey,
yeah.
right? That reverence, that honor, that respect for what you've created is missing. Do not hurry the journey. The beauty and the empowerment is in the journey. As I go back to the peak graph, once you hit that peak, there's going to be another one. And if you don't learn to master and accept and have gratitude for the in between, your life will be more challenge than beauty.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, because that was exactly what I was about to say now is literally that in between the work that has to happen. If you fall in love with it, if you really, like you said, make a partnership with it,
Yeah,
you appreciate it. You appreciate the work that you're putting in, which puts you into an attitude of gratitude. So
absolutely.
when the blessings come through, you're super grateful for the achievement having happened, but you're equally grateful for the fact that there's more work to be done, there's more learning to happen. And the universe just goes, finally. And here's the interesting thing, right? Is because, like you said, don't rush that process. Don't try to make it go faster than it has
Right,
to. Because the wonderful thing is, the
right,
sooner you get to a point where you really love it, the sooner you get to the point where you are grateful for it, the faster the universe makes things manifest to the point where you're saying to the universe, wait, slow down a little bit because I need to catch my
yes,
breath.
yes. Oh, God, yes. And this is what we want for everyone. We want our wealth of self community to know what we are expressing. We will never stop growing and building. The partnership with this in between is why Stefan and I have a partnership. That is why this is happening, because we're learning as we are experiencing what it is to relish and just soak in that in between, and the moments of connectivity and the moments of that spark of universal gift that we receive and then we share out, is because we understand now all of that in between helps us create these mini peaks that we share and we offer. And it's such a beautiful experience. And then something just hit me too when we were talking about partnership. What happens when we either rush the partnership, we settle for an experience with somebody, the work sets in, the reflection
Mm-hmm.
of what we still have to accomplish is just mirrored in our partnership, right? None of us ever pull in a partner and kick back and be like, oh, this is just perfect. I don't have to add, contribute, or respond to you. We don't even have to talk. It's just perfect. Let's just hang by each other's side through every day. Relationships are the beautiful in between to the utmost
Mm-hmm.
relationship in our life, which is with self. So you have to prepare yourself for when that beautiful lover, that beautiful romance comes in. If you are not right prepared for what that's going to bring, the highs and the lows and all the in betweens of what a new love affair is, it's going to be a pattern of what you already had.
Yep.
Then you will find yourself leaving that one again and thinking, oh, it was just that person, I'm good, let me move on to the next. And then right, you experience the next pattern. Really find the gratitude for the in between. It is truly what so many masters and sages express to us. It really is within the journey.
It really is, and it's such a, how do I'm trying to put this into words and express this properly. Um because I'm still coming to grips with my love affair with the in between pieces. And I am still coming to grips, as I said earlier, with, you know, rejecting that, oh, but when is the other shoe going to drop? Rejecting that thought. Because sometimes it really does feel like everything's just coming up, Stefan. Everything's just going our way, right?
Right.
And then there is this part of me that goes, "Oh, are you sure you should be getting too attached to this?" And then I look at it, I'm like, "Well, no, actually, because there are challenges happening. It's just that I'm so beautifully focused on the positives, and I'm so beautifully focused on the challenges being part of my growth, that I don't see them as negative.
Right.
So the other shoe is dropping 24/7.
Right.
It's just not impacting me the way that it used to, right? It's no longer tripping me up. It's not causing me to go, oh, well, you see, now this happened, and therefore obviously the universe doesn't love me, and and things are just not going to manifest the way I want them to. Instead, it's a case of, oh, that happened. Okay, so where is this coming from? Is this telling me to realign? Is this telling me that there's some other work that I forgot to do? Is this telling me that there's some growth that still needs to happen? So now instead, I'm looking at these challenges from that perspective of, what is the universe trying to teach me? What lesson is the universe trying to give me in order to accept in what I'm trying to manifest? And that relationship with the flow, with the ebb and the flow, which is what the universe is based on, right? The universe is based on polarity, and it's based on, oh God, I've gone blank on the term. Um, it's basically ebb and flow, but not polarity. What's it called? Where when things swing back and forth,
Oh, pendulum.
pendulum. But there's a term for this particular principle. So I've just gone blank on it.
Okay.
But yes, it's basically that the universe is based on that. It has to be, right?
And
But
it's
what
always right,
we
the movement, the rocking back and forth, again,
there we go.
yeah.
That movement is so important. It has
Yeah.
to be there.
Yeah.
But we as humans like to put an emotional attachment on it. We call one thing positive and another thing negative, and we hate to see it any other way. When in
Right.
actual fact, it's all just love, it's all just teaching, it's all just energy, and we get to use it how we want to. But we got to put that work in, and we got to, like you say, stay in love with the process, that in between space.
And again, I've brought this up, and I will continue because I love this quote by Michael Jordan, right? The famous basketball anomaly. The harder I work, the luckier I get. I love this
Mm,
because he is a representation of coming through that statement, that quote. Everyone that has value in their life, however we look at value, but there's always this, again, this practical practice of discipline. The mind needs to think a certain way. The body will follow. The wealth of the biology, the wealth of the cells have to be in alignment with the wealth of thought so that you can begin to create a life of wealth. And in this community, we use this word. This is a powerful, empowering word, wealth of self. And everything we talk about, you can use and apply to, as we said, romance, finance,
mhm.
friendships, society. But remind yourself that you, again, are an engineer of creation. You can think into manifestation almost anything that your mind can think of. Now, I
Yep.
understand there's lots of process, there's a big journey ahead, there's tools, there's skills, there's information, there's a lot of moving parts, but don't argue those limitations. Take them in as gifts and find your own unique way of creating that vision for yourself. And take on every challenge as this, again, this, we're using this word today, but this up leveling. It is not an anchor. It is not to
Mm,
tether you down. Every challenge is in place to use the challenge as a stepping stair. Use the next challenge as a stepping stair. Continue, see yourself climbing, or whatever's in your mind. It could be a beautiful ladder. Take this week and practice this when you're doing anything: gardening, cleaning, working, driving in the car, putting the kids to bed, whatever the story may be, walking on the beach, going to the gym. Find a way to begin to create the wealth of mindset right now. What does a challenge that's in your present day, what does that challenge look like? And practice what we teach in the science of empowerment. Recalibrate that challenge into something positive. Feel what it is to become an empowered being. Put it into principle, do and into practiced principle. Do not just listen to us. Actually do like Stefan offered,
Take action.
right? Put it into practice so you see the manifestation of it.
Now, I would like to drop one little word of caution, which might sound kind of
Mhm.
contradictory to everything that we've just been chatting about, but I promise it's not. It's actually perfectly aligned. Something that I think anybody who's looked at manifestation long enough for would have heard is there's this phrase that goes around in the community, which is when the why is big enough, the hows take care of themselves. And that's
Mm.
very true, right? And I bring that up because when you have a why, when you have a goal that you're looking to achieve, when you have something that you're wanting to manifest, the universe will give that to you. It often will take a path that you are not expecting and definitely not one that you perhaps were planning on, right? It doesn't negate the fact that you do have to take action. So coming back to maybe the easiest way to look at this is if you decided that, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year, right? And that is my big why. That is what I'm going to manifest. That is what I'm going to do. And then you start to take action around that. So you go, okay, well, I've always wanted to do this kind of work. That's my passion project, which, by the way, is a very good way to help speed up manifestation if you're doing something that you actually enjoy. And I'm going to find a mentor and I'm going to look at business plans. I'm going to put everything in place to get me from A to B, or A to Z, rather. What sometimes will trip people up is they'll look at A to Z, but then B might go out the window and the universe goes, oh no, you don't need to do C, but you need to spend some more time on D and you need to do this on E. And it's kind of like, well, is this actually going the way I'm wanting it to or not? What I'm trying to say, in maybe not a very succinct way, is don't get too attached to what you're doing or how you're doing it.
Right.
Trust that if you're taking action and you're staying aligned, and watch our other episodes as to what that means as well. If you're staying aligned and you're consistently taking action, but you're taking the direction from the universe at the same time,
Right.
your outcome will happen. It is scientific. Well, actually, yeah, I'm going to say scientific fact. It's scientific fact that if you are doing things the way you're supposed to in a
Right.
specific manner, the outcome is nice. It's guaranteed, right? It's
Right.
guaranteed.
Right.
But I say all of that because we tend to get stuck on, but I put together this amazing business plan. I was going to do this, and now I'm not supposed to do that anymore. What's going on?
Right.
Does the universe doesn't want this for me? No. The universe just may be showing you something better, right?
And again, and so as you were talking, I opened up the book, and I know we do our power quotes on Fridays, but I was like, give us a message that so again in real time, this is something that was written 5 years ago, and I'm actually living the manifestation of the science of empowerment.
See,
I'm proof that a thought turned into a thing. And if I told you the journey of what got us here, you'd be like, there's no way. I would have stopped at point A. And this is what we're
right.
trying to tell you. So I opened up, as I do, and the power quote is, there is greatness hidden within the adventure of forward movement past the status quo. Think about that.
Hmm.
There is greatness hidden within the adventure, i.e., the journey that we've been talking about today, of forward movement past the status quo. So if your mind is all set in that business plan, right? Status quo, right? I'm moving through the business plan, and something recalibrates. That's where the brilliance, the greatness, that's where the alchemy lives. Do not fear the alchemy.
No.
Find your resolve within the twist and turns. Find your brilliance within the recalibration. This is you reflecting from the outside back in. You are capable. This is why you are here. You are a creational genius. Don't doubt it. And if you doubt it, or someone is giving you doubt, then you pull up one of the Wealth of Self podcast and you remind yourself through our mentorship, our guidance, our experience, because we're right along with you, that you were put into the human condition to add value and to be creational. So go forth and create.
I swear, Laura, you always manage to just wrap up the entire episode so perfectly every single time. That is just so beautifully said.
Thank
I
you.
think I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm gonna leave it right there because, ladies and gentlemen, that was a perfect summation, I think, of everything that we've kind of discussed today. So, as always, as we start signing off, etc., I'm just gonna say again that all Laura's contact details are in the bio. Okay,
Yes.
please get yourself a copy of The Science of Empowerment. Book a session with either Laura or myself if you need to have a conversation, if you're looking for life coaching. Laura is there for you as well. And again, the link is in the bio. Our email addresses are there. If you have questions for us on the Wealth of Self itself, please pop a comment. We love to hear from our audience as well.
And
Um,
may I add
yeah,
one quick thing, which I know
yes,
we
please.
haven't really expanded on this, but there's something very unique that Stefan and I are doing in our journey, in our in between, and what we're creating. There is this beautiful alchemy of spiritual, esoteric teachings and guidance that Stefan has, which is why on Fridays when he reads the tarot, and then I come in with the science of empowerment behind what he offers. There's nothing like it in the world. It is a absolute empowering moment that you are connecting to the wealth of self. Reach out to us, have a reading with Stefan, have a coaching session with me. Your life will shift in a way that you as yet have created. We are here to help you with that. It's a very powerful opportunity. Take hold of it and begin that journey of the in between.
Beautifully said. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for your time. Laura, thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us today as well. Um, and yeah, as Laura says, please do join us every Friday as well. So we
Yes.
will be back at 7:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 1:45 p.m. Central European Time, and that'll be this coming Friday. And you can catch us every Monday at 7 a.m. New York time, 1 p.m. Central European Time.
Cool.
And yeah, other than that, have a wonderfully empowered week, digging into that wealth of self as much as you possibly can. And we look forward to seeing everybody very, very soon.
Bye.
Bye now. Bye. I think StreamYard is deciding to act up a little bit again today.
They like the creation.
Sorry.
They like the creation,
They do indeed.
right?
I'm sure
So
they'll